What's going on, and welcome to FST right here on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. I'm alongside George Kurtz. We are at the start of NFL Week 5, and there is so much to get to between the crazy game that we had last night on Thursday and, of course, all the injury notes. George, I'm ready to get rolling. There's really no time to delay. I say we just hop right in.
Absolutely. Like you said, you bring up the injuries. That's been, a major part, news story of the entire season here. Quarterbacks going down. Now wide receivers are going down. And by the way, we haven't even mentioned the bye week start this week. Tom, we're going to have some interesting lineup decisions going on this entire weekend.
Yeah, I know for myself, I have some interesting decisions to make. Do I have to start Tootin in the league? Whatever it might be. Will Shipley, I don't want to have to go that far, but let's jump right in, starting off with Terry McLaurin for the Washington Commanders has already been ruled out. Lamar Jackson also not expected to play. Two major injuries. George, any quick thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, as far as Lamar Jackson, that could be a multi-week injury. They don't know yet. Listen, you're in a one quarterback league, you should be okay. All right, in those leagues, I look at the waiver wire. You're not going to get a Lamar Jackson. I'm not saying that, but you can get a quarterback who's going to be decent for you. All right, it's not going to sink your team. McLaurin hurts a little bit more, especially if you pair that up. If you also had Malik Neighbors, who's gone, CeeDee Lamb, who's gone. All right, several other players are out too. If you had two of those guys, and now you got bye week Palooza coming here. Like I said, I've got a couple of lineups like, oh my God, I got to start this guy and that guy. You mentioned Shipley, someone like that might have to go in my lineup here because there's no one left. I just been decimated by injuries. And if you started off the season 1-3, this is a must-win week. You have to win this week here. So, like I said, these are times where, in my mind, Tom, you may have to make some weird trades because you have to win now. You worry about next week and the rest of the season. You go 1-4, you're probably toast. All right, you got to get to 2-3.
Absolutely. And speaking of Neighbors, he wasn't the only wide receiver to go down for the entire season. You mentioned CeeDee Lamb. He'll be back in some point in a couple of weeks. But both Malik Neighbors and Tyreek Hill, Sunday and Monday, respectively, for those two players, suffered knee injuries. The ACL injury for Neighbors, a little more complicated when it comes to Tyreek Hill with the knee that they said was dislocated, along with the ligament injury. They are both done for the season. And obviously, the change at quarterback for the Giants also plays into this. So Wan'Dale Robinson for the Giants, and of course, Jalen Waddle for the Dolphins are expected to play big roles moving forward, George.
Yeah, you think Waddle would be the number one receiver there. If you're looking for waiver wire pickups, I did pick up Malik Washington in a couple of leagues, and I got him fairly cheap. You got him early on in the week, which is somewhat surprising. His target share was pretty solid, even with Hill and Waddle there. Now without Hill, you would think he'd get up to maybe, I think he's at 24%. He might get up to 30, 32, could be. Another player who was very heavy on the waiver wire was tight end Darren Waller. Right, I think he went for the most money in most of the leagues that I'm in here, which is somewhat surprising. All right, he had a big game and a couple of touchdowns. Probably not going to happen again. That probably his best game of the season here, and no one had him. So I might want to temp down the enthusiasm a little bit for Waller here, but he was the big pickup this week as well because of the injury to Tyreek Hill.
And another injury for a player who was hot on the waiver wire last week was Trey Benson for the Arizona Cardinals. He was picked up because of the James Conner injury we had 2 weeks ago when he got hurt when they were playing at San Francisco. Trey Benson plays one game, and all of a sudden, now Trey Benson is out for 4 to 6 weeks due to surgery, and we're going to be likely seeing DeMercado and Michael Carter handling the bulk of the backfield work for the Cardinals.
Yeah, this one's a little tricky. All right, we heard Michael Carter actually come out and say, I would think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, that he was going to be the main guy. And it looks like it's going to be more of a split, which makes more sense. Neither one's a stud. All right, so it makes more sense there'll be somewhat of a split. Maybe DeMercado keeps the role he already had with Carter, taking over the ball-carrying role. I would think Carter might be the goal line guy, but that's just a guess here. But once again, you're picking them both up. Running back, pulse, you pick them up. Right, they're so valuable now, especially once again injuries and the bye weeks happening here. But no Benson, that was the loss. Connor, of course, is gone. Been a disappointing little run for the Cardinals. And remember, this probably also affects Kyler Murray. Because teams aren't going to play the run anymore. They're going to play to stop the pass. They'll probably pay to stop Murray from running. Right, that's what they're worried about here. So it has a trickle down effect. McBride to Harrison. So not a tough beginning for the Arizona Cardinals.
And speaking of tough beginnings, at least in the early portion of the season, the Cleveland Browns, they have decided to turn to Dillon Gabriel over Joe Flacco. We have to remember that the Browns are on the road in London to take on the Vikings, who played last week in Dublin. So certainly the rest favor in, certainly in the hands of the Vikings right now, who have a great defense. Dillon Gabriel taking over. Any thoughts on this? Because it seems like a lateral move, if not a slight increase when it's all said and done.
Fantasy-wise, listen, unless you're in a dynasty league, this does nothing for you, right? It probably drags everybody down a little bit here. They'll run the ball a lot with Judkins. We know that. They're going to want to play 17, 14 games. That defense is legit. Maybe one of the best in the NFL. So they're going to want to run the ball, eat that clock away, play boring football. All right, it's really what they're going to want to do here, and then hope they can win in the fourth quarter by the offense making a mistake. The other team's offense making a mistake. A turnover, something like that. NFL-wise, this is the right thing. All Cleveland should be worried about this season, Tom, is Dillon Gabriel the guy? If not, then we have to spend one of those first-round picks we have next year on a quarterback. We may need to trade up to get the quarterback we want in next year's draft. All right, that's all this season should matter for the Cleveland Browns. Not winning football games, figure out if is Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, by the way, he's going to get his shot too, I believe, at some point. Are one of these two guys, are they the franchise quarterback of the future? If not, then we need to go out and get it next year.
A lot of decisions to be made for the Browns, and let's turn to what we saw on Thursday Night Football between the 49ers and the Rams. The Niners coming away with an overtime victory, 26-23, and it was highlighted by a number of big performances really across the board. The story coming into it was the 49ers extremely shorthanded. We know Brock Purdy didn't start, Ricky Pearsall not there, Juwan Jennings not there, George Kittle still not there for them, and they turned to Mac Jones. He gets it done. But let's start with the Rams side of things. Matt Stafford, massive performance from him. I had to start I am starting Matt Stafford in one of my leagues because I lost Joe Burrow, I lost J.J. McCarthy, and now I turn to Stafford, who put up an amazing performance, 389 through the air and 3 passing touchdowns, highlighted by, of course, some of the late comebacks that they had that fell just a little bit short. Any thoughts on Stafford or even Kyron Williams, who put up a very good fantasy performance but did have a key fumble late in the game?
As far as Stafford, the only thing you're worried about with Stafford is, all right, when's he going to get hurt? How many games are you going to miss? It'll happen eventually. He'll miss a couple of games. I'm not saying a season-ending injury, but he'll miss a couple of games somewhere along the line here. That's the only negative with Stafford. Other than that, he's got Puka Nacua, who's catching what? He's got 52 catches now, receptions, I believe, in 5 games. That's set a record. All right, Devontae Adams having a pretty good season. Even Kyron Williams looked like Marshall Faulk coming out of the backfield yesterday, right, with all the receptions there. Yeah, Kyron had the fumble, and that can't happen. We saw it Monday night as well, with Braylon Allen fumbled while going into the end zone, and then we see it last night too. And Kyron does have this reputation that he'll put the ball on the ground, right? He'll drop the rock. So it's just that in that situation, cover the ball two hands at all times. But he took it off to think he was going to get in the end zone. Can't happen. It did. Big play by San Fran. If you want to be the optimist here, San Fran, real damn impressive. You already went through all their injuries here, yet they keep winning games, right? They beat Arizona a couple of weeks ago, and I trashed Arizona because you can't lose that game. You can't lose that game to a team that's JV, all right? And the Rams, same thing at home. At home, you lost to a JV team. If you want me to take you seriously, you can't do that, especially after you blew the game to the Philadelphia Eagles too. All right, that's just 2 ugly losses for the Rams.
So due to all the injuries that we saw from the 49ers, of course, Christian McCaffrey put up a mass performance. He's doing it on the ground. He's doing it in the air. Usual stuff from CMC, and of all the injuries, he's the one to be healthy. But the notable performance from the 49ers was Kendrick Bourne with 10 catches for 142 yards. He obviously has some on-field connection with Mac Jones dating back to their time in New England, but Bourne with the player step up, with Ricky Pearsall out, with Juwan Jennings out, he was the guy to come through. If he's available in your leagues, I would say go get him now, because those players should be coming back at a certain point.
My only worry will be when those players do come back. Also, he had this with Mac Jones. What about when Purdy plays, which may not be next week, by the way. He had a setback with the toe. So there's some worry there, but my God, what a performance last night.
Plenty more to get to right here on FST. Stay tuned. We're coming up against the break. We'll be back after this.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all three Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
They know the minutia of game time decisions,
way
when
more.
to call timeouts, when the kick, go for two, and all that other stuff better than the head coaches, because the head coaches aren't watching 30, 35 games like sports fans are between college football and the NFL. All the head coaches are doing are watching game films. They may be watching 30 game films, but they're not watching game management. So the fan does know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played. It definitely was an advantage for Europe, from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think, in a weird way, that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? Because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We are back, Fantasy Sports Today, right here on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. I'm alongside George Kurtz. We are running through what we saw last week, and of course, what we have leading into NFL Week 5. Let's turn to the Week 4 fantasy standouts, running through some different positions, and let's just get right into it. And let's turn to Kyle Pitts, tight end for the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, a player that has been highly touted over a number of years at this point. First-round draft pick. The Falcons, not just Pitts, but they bounced back in a big way against the Commanders last week after a terrible performance 2 weeks ago against the Panthers. Kyle Pitts, 5 catches, the 70 yards, the 1 touchdown. As a Kyle Pitts truther since day one, I drafted him right when he came out of college in the first round of my Dynasty League. I am all aboard the Kyle Pitts train. George, what do you expect from him moving forward?
Well, what do we believe here? All right, he finally had a good game. Penix finally had a good game. Can they both continue it going forward? Now, we're not going to find out this week because they're one of the teams that has a bye. So frustrating if you had Pitts. Oh, he finally plays well. Oh, now he's got a week off. All right, so now we'll see what's going to happen here. Do I think it's going to be a top 8 tight end the rest of the season? No, probably not. I have doubts here, although there is a possibility. It's not a definite no here. Do I think he'll be top 12, which means he's tight end 1? Yeah, I think he might finish as a tight end 1. All right, but there's a lot of mouths to feed there as well. Drake London, all right, with John Robinson. All right, Mooney's been not so good so far, so I don't know if I was worried about him. The Falcons need him to be that guy, so I think there is some hope here. Bottom line is this. If Tom Vecchio offers to trade him to me, thanks, Tom, I'll pass.
I'm hoping the best for Kyle Pitts as I have been for a number of years at this point. But we move on to Kent Gainwell, running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Got the start last week when they were in London against the Vikings because Jalen Warren was a late scratch for the Steelers. Fantastic performance from him. 2 touchdowns, over 100 combined yards from him. We would have to expect that this performance is more of an outlier and cannot be the standard once Warren comes back. If Warren remains out, there's a clear path for Kenny Gainwell moving forward, but if Warren is back, we have to temper our expectations for Gainwell.
I agree with you. All right. I think his best fantasy game, that was last week. You're not going to see that again. All right. Pittsburgh also has the week off, so we're not going to see him. But Gainwell can be a useful flex player because he can catch the ball. PPR leagues, not in standard leagues. He'll rush some yardage. You'll get some catches here. I wouldn't expect 2 touchdowns from him maybe ever again. That's a more freaky thing than anything else. But yeah, he has value right now. We joke about it all the time. Any running back with a pulse has value. All right. There's not enough of them to go around for all of us here. So he's definitely someone who, if he's out in your waiver wire, he should be picked up. He should not be on your waiver wire anymore. He should have been picked up 2 weeks ago. But I don't think we've heard the end of Gainwell, but I think his best fantasy game has already gone. But as I said, they don't play this week. We'll see them in week 6.
And I will say the week off does hurt Gainwell in an aspect because it's just more time for Jaylen Warren to rest and get healthy. Let's turn to another running back, and that is Woody Marks of the Houston Texans. His name was hot a couple of weeks ago. People were saying, check in on him, see if he's on the waivers, pick him up now before the breakout happens. Also considering where the Texans are overall, at some point they got to move on from Nick Chubb. He's simply not getting it done. There's no indication that Joe Mixon will be back at any time soon. Woody Marks broke out last week. Great performance from him. Like to see that he's getting it done in the air as well. I think he should be the running back moving forward for the Texans for the rest of the season.
Once again, I agree with you. He's a guy we probably should have seen this coming, and some of us did. You already said it. Mixon, we knew he wasn't going to play for a while, right? Nick Chubb. I root for Nick Chubb, Tom. I want him to come back, want him to be that guy, but those are nasty injuries he's had. I don't expect him to ever be that player again, which left us with Marks. All right, unless you believe in Dameon Pierce, which I did not. So I think we should have seen this coming. The only thing I worry about, that offensive line is putrid. I mean, it's damn bad. All right, so there's not going to be a lot of holes. So he's going to have to make up his own holes, be his own blocker at times here. The good news is that the defense really, really good. So they should be theoretically in close games, means you're going to keep running the football. Bad defense would mean second half they're throwing the ball all day because they're trailing here. Don't know if I see that, but it's the only the offensive line worries me. But Marks is if he's out there in the waiver wire, which once again he should not be. You go out and grab Marks.
Right, and if the Texans continue to struggle, part of me thinks that they just try and move Nick Chubb at the deadline. Some team that's a contender wants a veteran back just to ensure their backfield would be a clear path for Marks moving forward despite the offensive line inefficiency. And then let's turn to Marvin Mims Jr., the wide receiver from the Denver Broncos. Solid performance from him. It was really a solid performance from the Broncos offense overall and really the best game of the season that we saw from Bo Nix. I will say I am relatively lukewarm to just basically neutral when it comes to Marvin Mims and the Denver offense. We know what Sean Payton likes to do with the running backs. Bo Nix is a little bit up and down for a comfortable level of trust for me, and we know that Marvin Mims will never be the dominant option in that passing offense with Courtland Sutton there. I think if you can get him and you need a little bit of depth, that's certainly fine, but I would not be spending any big fab budget to go grab him.
Now, I kind of agree with you, all right, because last week at this time we were talking about Franklin, right? He was going to be the guy, all right? And now we're talking about Mims. The only reason why I might say, hey, maybe we have something here, well, they play Philadelphia. You can throw on Philly. Then they play the Jets. You can throw on the Jets. Then they play the Giants. You can throw with Giants. Then you play the Cowboys. Everybody throws on the Cowboys. So what I'm trying to say is there's a good run here for them to be able to throw the football here and do damage. I think he's a guy, Tom, who you might want to grab. You're going to use him for October, and then by Halloween, you're moving on. So I think there's a shot there for him to play, especially during bye week Palooza here.
Very fair, very fair. And it's also circumstantial in your league. Are you starting 2 wide receivers? Are you starting 3? Do you have 1 flex spot, 2 flex spot? Take all those things into consideration. And as George mentioned, obviously the schedule and the timing of the buys, that's really where you should be maximizing. And the same thing as we talked about in the opening segment with Kendrick Bourne. Like now is the time to strike with Kendrick Bourne, because if Purdy comes back and obviously the on-field connection isn't there as he has with Mac Jones, Bourne that is, and then buys change, now is the time to strike for Bourne, Mims, some of these secondary or tertiary wide receivers. We have plenty more to get to. We're going to go over the Week 5 waiver wire guys you should be focusing in on. We'll touch on some of the upcoming games and many, many more topics to get to. The injuries are playing a huge part across the league. Offenses are being inefficient. New players are stepping up. You name it. We will cover it all right here on FST. Myself, Tom Vecchio, and George Kurtz will be back after this. George, when it comes to the Cowboys, there's a player you should be focusing in on when it comes to the wide receiver core to step up with CeeDee Lamb out, and we will touch on him next, right after this.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all three Circa Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
They know the minutia of game time decisions, when to call timeouts, when the kick, go for two, and all that other stuff better than the head coaches, because the head coaches aren't watching 30, 35 games like sports fans are between college football and the NFL. All the head coaches are doing are watching game films. They may be watching 30 game films, but they're not watching game management. So the fan does know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played. It definitely was an advantage for Europe, from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think, in a weird way, that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? Because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We're back right here on FST on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio alongside George Kurtz. We are running through NFL Week 5 from a fantasy perspective, and let's hop right into Week 5 waiver wire. And let's start off at the top for the Tennessee Titans, Elic Ayominor, a player that's rostered in 42% of leagues. And I have to say, I have not bought into the hype since preseason. I like Cam Ward. The offense looks terrible now, and I thought it was a little bit cluttered. Getting the ball to Calvin Ridley, I think, should be their priority. He's now obviously dealing with injuries. I don't know where to go with this offense because the potential for points is so low. I'm not sure any player truly has any value.
And that's sort of what you just hit there. The upside is extremely limited. I mean, Ayominor, for the most part, has been solid. You said if you play in a 3 wide receiver league, he's been a wide receiver 3. It's been that's what he is, but the upside is limited. And I think that's what's hurting fantasy players because you're looking at your roster. I got Ayominor, but I got this other guy, and he has a higher upside. Yeah, his average right now, he's not been consistent. And Ayominor is probably might put up more points on a per week basis, but there's a chance this other guy could hit it big and win me my week. And I think for fantasy, generally, we're going to go with the other guy because Ayominor is consistent, but he's not putting up big numbers. I'll give you 12 points a week. Yay. And you're looking for that 18 to 24 points. And I think that's what's going to push you towards your other receiver. That's how I would look at it. Unless I'm in a match where, okay, just for gig, I keep using Tom. If I'm playing Tom and I'm favored to win by 32 points, all right, give me the solid 12. I don't need to gamble. I'll take the solid 12. I know I'm going to win. Then I can see that. But for the most part, I think team's going to go with the other player because it's just not sexy. And as you said, the offense is not good. Callahan's going to get fired any day now. I think he'll be the first coach fired this season. So it's going to happen. They're a mess right now.
Let's move on to Jalen Tolbert, who's very widely available, only rostered in 5.4% of leagues. Listen, Dak is playing awesome right now. There are a lot of underlying metrics to suggest Dak is having a fantastic season. With CeeDee Lamb out, everyone's going to be looking at George Pickens. We know that. Pick up Jake Ferguson, or I should say start Jake Ferguson. But Jalen Tolbert, I think, is really that number 2 wide receiver. Turpin is not a guy that they're going to play at a high volume. He's also not going to be a target monster. I think Jalen Tolbert is a very solid option to pick up. And again, with the bye weeks and the injuries happening, if you have to throw him into your flex, it's not the worst thing because the Cowboys are going to be consistently playing in higher scoring games because the defense is terrible and Dak simply has to throw.
All right, Tom gave you the optimistic viewpoint. I'll give you the pessimistic, which is not. I'm not saying it's going to happen, by the way, but let's remember a couple of things. 2 road games for the Cowboys this season. They have not scored a point in the second half. All right, keep that in mind here. So for whatever reason, they're struggling in the second half on the road. Maybe they're not making adjustments, whatever it might be. Turpin, probably not going to play this week, by the way. He's dealing with injury. He'll be limited, so that's good for Tolbert here. And there's nearly nobody else. CeeDee Lamb's not playing this week. Jonathan Mingo, who's eligible to come off the IL, not going to play this week. Remember Jonathan Mingo? So that's good news for him. Dallas could be missing 4 of their top 5 offensive linemen in this game. So that could also be a mess. I know the Cowboys have a lot of injuries to worry about here. That's the pessimistic viewpoint. The optimistic viewpoint, yeah, they're probably going to get a ton of points. They're going to be throwing the ball all day. Someone's got to catch the ball besides Pickens, who Sauce Gardner will probably travel with, and Jake Ferguson. That does leave Tolbert.
Right. Moving on to a running back from New Orleans Saints, Kendre Miller, player that I know a lot of people have been across the fantasy industry. They've been high on for a couple of seasons at this point, obviously playing in a limited role behind Alvin Kamara. Again, this is a player I think is okay. His upside is limited. The offense is bad. The role is not consistent. Again, he has a pulse. You want to pick him up and stash him. Some people think the Saints are going to trade Kamara at a certain point to a contender. Miller would be in for a big role at that point.
Well, after that Kamara, the contract they signed him to last year, I don't know about a trade. I don't know what's going to happen here. I thought that contract was a mistake when they did it for an older player for a team that's not contending for anything. As for Miller, I agree with everything you said. Hey, bye weeks. So, yeah, he might have some value to fill in for you, right? And he is getting the ball, right? He is getting the rock. They do play with Giants this week. It's going to be the Kamara show. They're not going to want to lose to the Giants. But hey, like I said, if you're desperate, we talked about Will Shipley earlier. Same sort of category here. I probably like Miller a little bit more, so there, you could get 6 to 8 points. If he falls to the end zone, there's your double digits.
And finally, Dalton Schultz, tight end for the Houston Texans. Their offense has been pretty bad from start to finish, or at least, thus far in the season. We're not getting much out of Nico Collins. Christian Kirk recently came back overall. I think Dalton Schultz, again, is a fine option, but he doesn't really move the needle for me.
Exactly. I mean, listen, you did it for a couple of points. You're going to need that touchdown deodorant or else he's going to stink. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
You're looking at 7, 8 points, but he falls in the end zone, you get double digits. So sure, but that offensive line, mentioned it earlier, bad. All right, so it's not going to be easy.
Not a whole lot of good for the Texans right now. We got plenty more to get to other side of this break. Stay tuned.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
They know the minutia of game time decisions, when to call timeouts, when the kick, go for 2, and all that other stuff better than the head coaches, because the head coaches aren't watching 30, 35 games like sports fans are between college football and the NFL. All the head coaches are doing are watching game films. They may be watching 30 game films, but they're not watching game management. So the fan does know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played. It definitely was an advantage for Europe from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think, in a weird way, that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? Because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We are back, Fantasy Sports Today, right here on SportsGrid. Alongside George Kurtz, I'm Tom Vecchio, and let's get to the fantasy games of the week. Hopefully games that bring plenty of scoring potential for your fantasy lineups and your fantasy players. And let's start with Raiders-Colts. Breakout game for Ashton Genty last week. The Raiders, unfortunately, did not come away with a win, but we still saw multiple touchdowns from Genty. We have the resurgence of Daniel Jones. The entire Colts offense seems to be moving top to bottom. And then Geno Smith, love it or hate it, he's going to throw the ball. He's probably going to throw a couple of interceptions, but he'll pick up some yards. But more importantly, Brock Bowers did not practice for the second straight day, leaving a big role for both Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers for the Raiders. George, any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Bowers was all the big news. You found out a couple hours ago, right, that he didn't practice. I mean, bottom line is this. If he starts for, almost said Oakland, but I didn't. If he starts for the Raiders, he starts for me. All right, that's the way it's going to be. I don't have Bowers anywhere. I wasn't willing to spend that second, third round pick on a tight end. I never am. I never really had Kelsey back in the day either, just the way I go. Myers is going to go for me, Tucker. I mean, Tucker didn't do much last week. He really did Myers. They seem to be off and on. You just don't know if that's going to be the week. And Genty, he was the big guy last week. Tom, you're starting him no matter what, right? But is this now okay? We're going to see Genty. Bottom line here is as well, the offensive line sucks. It is really bad. Genty has more yards after contact than before contact. Think about that. That just lets you know how bad things are going on for the Raiders in that offensive line here. But you're starting these guys. Daniel Jones, he's not running as much of late, Tom. And I wonder if that's being a purposeful thing where they say, hey, we got to keep you healthy. You run when you really have to, but don't just take over. We don't want you getting banged up. We don't want the concussions to come back. So that's something to keep an eye on there. Jonathan Taylor goes here. Michael Pittman, of course. You might want to watch his injury status as well, along with Alec Pierce. Make sure they play. Tyler Warren, been fantastic. He's certainly in your lineup.
Absolutely. And it was good to see Genty involved in the passing game last week. Hopefully that is the standard moving forward for the Raiders. Next up, Cowboys at Jets. We've kind of touched on this game in the last segment with the Cowboys due to the wide receivers, the injuries that they have. But Dak's been playing well. He's moving the ball. We know that there's no CeeDee Lamb. George Pickens should still be the guy. Jake Ferguson is off to a phenomenal start this year. Javonte Williams is off to a good start. We know that Justin Fields came back last week for their game at the Miami Dolphins. We know that Garrett Wilson had a big game in that one. Really top to bottom, we should see some scoring on both sides.
We're not going to get the Green Bay Dallas game last week. I mentioned earlier, Dallas hasn't scored any point in the second half in their first two road games here. Something to think about there. You're starting Dak. You're starting Ferguson, who looks really good. That's been Dak's main outlet here. And you're starting Pickens, although, once again, if Sauce is following him, those numbers are going to be limited here. I said Tolbert might be a guy you might want to look at here, assuming Turpin is banked up or even not playing here. For the Jets, I mean, Justin Fields looked like blah, and then also was taking off, right? He got great fantasy numbers there. You certainly, if you have a Jet on your team, and you're not starting against the Cowboys defense, why do you have a Jet on your team? You move on. He shouldn't be there. All right. So every Jet you have should be started. And if you're not starting him, boy, you're either doing really well with 4 teams on bye, or that Jet should have been a jettison for somebody else here.
Absolutely. Next up, Lions at Bengals. And preseason, or when we got the schedules, this looked to be an awesome game. I'm not so sure about it. With Jake Browning at the helm for the Bengals, it is terrible. Their offensive line is bad. Their defense is bad. The fantasy production for Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, and T. Higgins has seemingly, evaporated right in front of our eyes. And the first round price on Jamar Chase is seemingly gone out the window. From the Lions' perspective, if they don't score 30 points, I'm going to be legitimately shocked. We're going to see touchdowns probably from both Gibbs and Montgomery. Add in St. Brown, add in one of Jameson Williams and or Sam Laporta. It's all Lions in this game. I don't know how they don't go out there and again score 30 points and win this 30-10.
Boy, I think it might be a lot worse than that, by the way. If Dan Campbell wants to, I think this is a 40-point ball game. I don't think Cincinnati can stop him, and I don't think I think Detroit can stop Cincinnati. When I think about this, I am so thankful I did not have the number 1 pick overall in any league, because I thought that was Jamar Chase this year. All right, and it's not gonna happen. I don't know what's happened with Browning. It lets you know how good Joe Burrow has been, really, to put points up with this team, with that offensive line and that defense, which really hasn't changed all that much. You probably have to start Chase. You have to start T. Higgins. Chase Brown, I can't see having that kind of running back depth. It's scary to say, Tom. I don't want to start any of these guys. I don't think Chase is going to have a big game. I don't. I don't think T. Higgins going to have a big game. I don't think Chase Brown's going to have a big game. But I'm probably starting each of them and praying at this. I mean, it's hard for me to fathom. I am praying when I start Jamar Chase this week. Just hoping that he can I get 12 to 15 points, which is nothing for your number one overall pick here. But it's not going to happen for Cincinnati.
Yeah, certainly getting late early for the Bengals, given the lack of Joe Burrow. Next up, the Commanders taking on the Chargers. A lot of notes in this one. We touched on the top that Terry McLaurin has already been ruled out. Jane Daniels is expected to play. The Chargers are going to be without Joe Alt. And we know that Omarion Hampton is taking over the lead role in their backfield. This seems like it should be a really good game, at least from a fantasy perspective. The no Terry note for the Commanders is important. Daniels coming back in his first week from injury certainly throws a wrinkle into things, but I think we are in for some back and forth scoring, especially the fact that the Chargers lost to the Giants last week. They're back at home. I think they go out and put up some points.
The Commanders are sort of a mess right now. All right, fantasy-wise, the defense actually is a mess NFL-wise as well. So definitely, it's a chance for the Chargers to score points here. But we want to trust Daniels this week because he's back, right? And you're starting Daniels. I am the one league I have him. I'm starting. Don't have a choice. Caleb Williams, the quarterback, and he's on bye. They told us earlier in the week they go with the three-headed monster at running back. So you're praying you pick the right one. Whether it's JCM, you want to take Rodriguez, McNichols, that's a mess. None of them are going to put up big numbers unless they get to the end zone here. You mentioned no McLaurin, so Debo's a must. Is there anybody after that? No. I guess McCaffrey would be that guy if you want to throw mud against the wall and hope it sticks. Ertz is a must start. He's looked really good, no matter who's the quarterback there. So it's like a blast to the past, right? We want Debo, we want Ertz. Everyone else is questionable for me.
On the Charger side of things, all their wide receivers you can fire up. I know Ladd McConkey has been off to the greatest start, but still a great quarterback with Herbert. He's playing at a near MVP level. I think they throw the ball. We have great options there. Finally, let's turn to the Patriots at the Bills. Pats coming off a huge win. They put up a ton of points. Their running back room is also a bit of a mess. Their wide receiver room doesn't have one dominant option. Hunter Henry is having a good start to the season. And then the Bills, they're the Bills. Great offense. Allen, Cook in the backfield, who looks phenomenal. Their wide receiver room and the distribution of the target share for the wide receivers is kind of spread all over the place. But, of course, you could still be starting Keon Coleman if you have to, Khalil Shakir. I think that's fine. But Allen and Cook, phenomenal starts to the season, George.
Yeah, I guess we expected that. Maybe we certainly expected with Allen. Cook, we were sort of like, oh, can he do it again? Can he do it again? Mm-hmm. Well, he can. And he looks even better. Right, this guy gets touchdown every week. You want to bet on an anytime touchdown. You want to look Cook's way here, and I think he'll get the end zone again. You mentioned the wide receivers, Coleman, Shakir, Palmer to a lesser degree. I mean, who's going to have that week? Is it going to be that week? They're tough to trust here. Is where I'm going with that. One league I have several. I have Neighbors out, CeeDee Lamb out. I have Palmer. He's been on my bench since week 1. But I picked up Malik Washington from Miami, and I'm gonna roll with Malik this week. I'll see what I can get. I just feel better about him because I don't know about Palmer. I just don't. Kincaid has been good. He's been touchdown dependent, but he's been getting those touchdowns. And we like the fact that Allen's looking for him in the end zone, right? That's what we want. So he's been touchdown dependent here, but I'm rolling with Kincaid as well here. As for New England, listen, Butler's going to score their share of points. Right? They're going to have to throw the football, so you might want to go with May. The way they're using the running backs is driving me insane. Henderson's your best running back. Can we give the ball to Henderson? It had already cost you one game by relying on Stevenson, who fumbled the ball. Shocking, like he's never done that before. We know he does that. And Hunter Henry, once again, May looks for him in the end zone. He definitely has eyes for him, so you may want to go with him. Stephon Diggs, once again, bye weeks. I think he's not Stephon Diggs anymore. Right? He's never going to be that guy. But it is Buffalo. It is revenge week. So he'll be in my lineup.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more on Henderson. Let him see the ball 20 times a game, and let's just find out what happens. We know what we have with Ramondre Stevenson. We know what we have with Gibson. Get those guys out of there. Give the ball to Henderson. See what happens with your rookie running back. We have plenty more to get to. Stay tuned right here. FST will be back after this.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all three Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
They know the minutia of game time decisions, when to call timeouts, when the kick, go for two, and all that other stuff better than the head coaches, because the head coaches aren't watching 30, 35 games like sports fans are between college football and the NFL. All the head coaches are doing are watching game films. They may be watching 30 game films, but they're not watching game management. So the fan does know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played. It definitely was an advantage for Europe from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think, in a weird way, that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? Because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, Fantasy Sports Today, right here on SportsGrid. Now it's time for Buy or Sell. Buy or sell, we'll run through a few different topics. Buy or sell, myself, George, will give our takes. We'll start with Shedeur Sanders. Will be starting for the Browns by week 9. I am buying this. Absolutely. At a certain point, Joe Flacco just not the answer. We know they already made the change. Dylan Gabriel is starting this week. We know that. But maybe a team needs a quarterback, and they're willing to trade for Joe Flacco for some level of stability, and then we simply get nothing out of Dylan Gabriel. He is a rookie quarterback when it's all said and done. Maybe there's just no production from him. So why not just move on to a different rookie quarterback that you have just to see what you have? And then, as George, as you mentioned over the top, you have to evaluate going into next year's draft. So I will absolutely buy this.
All right, so since I haven't made fun of our producer Sam all show, week 9's a bye week. So, no, he won't be there by week 9. Maybe week 10, but their next 4 games. No. The next 4 weeks, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Miami, New England. I mean, the question is this. If they truly believe that Gabriel could be a future starter, you got to give him more than 4 weeks. Right? That's 4 weeks is not enough. Minnesota, it's a rough game. All right. Being played, England this week. Pittsburgh, they haven't have a defense. Miami is not very good. New England's supposed to have a good defense, hasn't here. I want to sort of go. I mean, I think Shedeur Sanders is going to start at some point this week, but I don't think it's going to be by week 10, although that does make sense here to name him the starter during the bye week, get him 2 weeks here. I'm going to go more, maybe double digits, week 12, week 14, somewhere around there. Because I want to give Gabriel a longer run. I think Gabriel might do some damage here against these lesser defenses here. So I think they give him a longer runway here. That being said, I do not think Gabriel is the long-term future of this team. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback at all here. I think he's a number 2 at best here. Sanders could be a number 1. I have doubts about him too. I think Sanders has a better shot. So by week 9, by week 10, I'll sell that. But if you would give me a couple of more weeks, I would have bought it.
All right. Next up, Daniel Jones will finish the season as a top 10 fantasy quarterback. I will buy it solely because of the injuries that we have seen around the league. We've already seen a couple games missed for Daniels. Joe Burrow is out of the mix. So as every quarter, and J.J. McCarthy is obviously going to miss games. So as every quarterback gets hurt as long as he can stay healthy, I think he'll be in that mix. And it may not come from an efficiency standpoint. It's really just going to be the fact that he was healthy and he was able to play more games. I will buy that.
Yeah, I'll parrot everything Tom just said. I have really nothing to add here. The fact that we have so many quarterbacks getting hurt here, Purdy is not going to be in this mix here with the injuries here. It just moves him up. No matter what you believe in him, it moves him up. Someone's got to finish top 10. All right, and everybody else getting hurt here. So same reason. And by the way, when I say this, Daniel Jones looked really good so far. He's made the Colts relevant. All right, they look like a team that could win a division, make the playoffs, all that here. So I'm not poo-pooing Daniel Jones, but if everybody would have stayed healthy, he's not top 10. But he still would have been better than we thought. Right. So, but yes, because of all the injuries, I agree with Tom. I'll buy this. He'll be top 10.
The Pittsburgh Steelers will win the AFC North. And, if you were to ask me this question a week ago, I would be selling, but now I think I will be buying because it's how they have played in combination with the Lamar news and the fact that it is a potential multi-week injury for Lamar. So I will buy it. And again, it really just comes down to schedule. Can Lamar come back and he looks great and they're healthy and they make the playoffs? But the fact that the Steelers are just that step ahead to begin with, I'll buy it.
You look at the Steelers, there are 2 games coming out of the bye are Cleveland and Cincinnati. They can be 5-1 before we know what's going on here. All right, and it's not just Lamar Jackson for the injuries to Baltimore. They lost one of their top defensive players. I mean, Roquan Smith is also out now. Another top defense. They've got injuries up the wazoo. So I think they're in a lot of trouble. I do, and I think as bad as Houston has been, I think they'll have a tough time beating Houston this week, even though it's in Baltimore. That could be a loss there with Cooper Rush. Don't know. Don't know there. So I don't feel confident about Baltimore at all. Too many injuries right now. Just too many here. So we know, listen, I'm not even mentioning Cleveland, Cincinnati, other than the teams playing them. We know those 2 teams are not winning the division here. It's Pittsburgh or Baltimore. Right now, Pittsburgh has the major advantage here. I don't think they're all that good a team. I don't. And I hate Aaron Rodgers. All right. I think the guy's a nutcase. That being said, he can still play football. All right. Yeah, I cannot believe I'm saying this on October 3rd. All right, but yeah, Pittsburgh wins the division. I buy it.
All right, and then finally, the Dolphins will finish with a worse record than the Giants. This one I'm gonna sell on. I'm not sold on the Giants as an organization overall, and the lack of talent of missing Malik Neighbors, I think, is more of a detriment to them than Tyreek Hill missing from the Dolphins. I think there are enough pieces within the Dolphins that they can still get it done. I'm not sold on Dable as a coach. I'm not saying I'm sold on Mike McDaniel as a coach either. I think he's a great coordinator, not a great coach. I will sell this.
Yeah, you're looking at the schedule here for Miami. I already know a Giants schedule is brutal. Yeah, and I think the Giants might win this week. They get the 2 wins, and then I don't know when another win's coming from. Let's get the schedule for the Giants. Someone hated the Giants this year. Brutal, absolutely brutal here. Miami's not much better. They do have Carolina this week, so they can win as well. You got to add Cleveland. Okay, I can see you beating Cleveland, Atlanta, Baltimore, Buffalo, Washington. New Orleans could be a win. All right, your Jets, of course, you're in your division. You do play Cincinnati. I think Miami will finish with a better record. I do. So I'm going to go with Miami as well here. Only like I said, the Giants' schedule, if they can beat New Orleans this week, wow. And remember, we say, hey, the Dolphins lost Hill. Giants lost Neighbors. All right, so that's what evens out there. Neighbors is a better play. Actually, probably hurt the Giants more here because at least with Tua can throw the ball somewhat. We don't know about Jackson Dart. Everyone's all in love with Dart. He threw for 111 yards last week. Okay, those 2 turnovers they got won the game against the Chargers. Not Jackson Dart, although granted he may have given them a spark here. But we'll still see what the rookie can do. I'll take the Dolphins to have a better record than the Giants.
Yeah, Giants had the toughest schedule coming into the season. They still have to play the Eagles twice. They have to play the Commanders one more time, the Cowboys one more time. Certainly a tough sledding for them moving forward. But like you said, a spark for Dart and the Giants offense moving forward, even without Malik Neighbors for the season. That's it for this segment. We're coming up against the break right now. We look at your playoff chances depending on what your record is after 4 weeks for your fantasy team. We'll be back after this.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all three Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
They know the minutia of game time decisions, when to call timeouts, when the kick, go for two, and all that other stuff better than the head coaches, because the head coaches aren't watching 30, 35 games like sports fans are between college football and the NFL. All the head coaches are doing are watching game films. They may be watching 30 game films, but they're not watching game management. So the fan does know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played. It definitely was an advantage for Europe from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think, in a weird way, that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? Because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We're back. Fantasy Sports Today right here on SportsGrid. 4 weeks of the fantasy season are done. Beginning of week 5. Let's look at the playoff chances for your team depending on your record. In 3 leagues this year, 2 leagues I am 3-1. 1 league I am 1-3. I am furious about the league that I am 1-3 in because the last catch by Garrett Wilson on Monday night against the Dolphins caused me to drop to 1-3 instead of being 2-2. So I should be 2-2 in that league. Not happy about that, but 3-1 in 2 other leagues, certainly looking up for there. George, how are you looking as of now?
A couple leagues I'm undefeated. Going to the league with some of our employees here at Sirius XM. And in my home league, one of my home leagues, I'm 1-3. And but that being said, we have a rule in this league, and I think more leagues should have this. A lot of leagues do, but the last playoff team, 6 teams make the playoffs, 5 teams go by record. The last playoff team is the team that has the most points that's not in the playoffs. And my complaint is that would be me right now. I have the second most points in that league, and I just been unlucky. This is one thing about head-to-head leagues. You can be unlucky. I keep playing the team that scores 1,000,000 points that week. All right. Second most points, I'm still looking good for the playoffs, even though I am 1-3. I'm still frustrated, mind you. It's also why, Tom, I don't know if you play in a league like this. This is rare, but I like leagues where you play double headers each week. And what I mean by double headers is, if I play Tom, I'm playing Tom, win or lose. But also, if you're in a 12-team league, the top 6 teams that have the most points for that week, they get a win. The bottom 6 teams, you get a loss, regardless if you won or lost your matchup. Even things out a little bit here. They'll take some of the luck factor away or the unlucky factor away here. So I enjoy that as well. But so far, it's going well, unless it's my home leagues. My home league's not doing all that well in. And it didn't help that in both leagues, Tom, play 2 home leagues, I have Malik Neighbors. And CeeDee Lamb in 1 too. So like everybody else, hey, we're all struggling with injuries. We have to get by it. But so far, so good. I can't complain too much. I will anyway, but I can't.
A lot of injuries for me. Like I said, I lost Burrow and McCarthy in 1 league. I lost Purdy and McCarthy in another league. So certainly dealing with a ton across the board. But let's get to the SportsGrid 60.
All right. As everybody knows, I certainly can't say a way you don't know. I'm a Cowboy fan. All right. And Every time Jerry Jones speaks, I want to throw up. Every time. I just think, oh, I turn the TV off. He can't get over the Micah Parsons thing, right? Always has to throw a dig now. He's not on the team anymore, Jerry. Let it go. All right, trying to justify last week's game is, Micah, he didn't do anything there. Well, he actually did. He was the best graded player in the game, by the way. Better than Dak, who had a fantastic game. And he made the game-saving tackle there as well. Stop with the Micah. He's gone. All right, stop trying to justify what you did. It was a bad trade. It wasn't terrible, but it was a bad trade here. But every time now he's so stuck in this Micah, they try to justify why he did it. As a Cowboy fan, I got to tell you, it just gets infuriating. Shut the hell up.
Okay. Not a surprise to hear that from you or any Cowboys fans, but my SportsGrid 60 is very simple, and it comes to when we're in a fantasy environment and you're in different ones, whether it's a regular redraft league, some type of keeper league, dynasty league. I want to say, very simply, make trading approachable between you and whoever else is in your league. Don't go out there and just throw an offer out, which I despise. Getting blind offers from people is the worst thing. If you're going to propose a trade to someone, ask them, what are you looking for? What are you looking to get back? And again, if you were playing in different types of leagues, you have to value things differently. When you are trading draft picks in a dynasty league or a keeper league that have future value, I may be willing to give up a good player knowing I'm getting a young player back I like, but I also want some type of compensation for that, giving me a draft pick or whatever it might be. Don't blindly throw out trade offers and then ask the person, well, what do you want in return? It's I never proposed anything to you. Make it approachable. Make things easy for all parties involved. I know what I want. What do you want in return? Can we find a middle ground instead of just blindly throwing offers out there? That is the absolute worst. It accomplishes nothing. And then it makes people unwilling to trade, knowing that you're just getting nothing in return because we didn't find a middle ground. So make things easy. Use the different formats to your advantage, whether it's Dynasty Keeper, Redraft, whatever it might be. Make things easy for everyone. The leagues will be so much more fun if everyone is on the same page. George, that was my SportsGrid 60. You always like to talk about the Cowboys, but that does it for FST today. Week 5 is underway. We have a great week coming up. Deal with the injuries, deal with the bye weeks, and set your lineups. You will be in a good spot. We'll be back next week, next Friday at 3 o'clock to go through more leading into NFL Week 6. Right back here on SportsGrid. We'll see you guys.
Ashton Genty, between yards and yards before contact and yards after contact, all these sorts of, they're giving him nothing. He is getting hit constantly behind the line of scrimmage, multiple yards behind the line of scrimmage, and frankly, at this point, I think he's essentially out of the race, and this is partly due to Emeka Buka having a great year, Tyler Warren putting up big numbers, Ted McMillan, I think, is maybe the most talented player overall in the rookie class.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The leader right now in the clubhouse in the odds market is Fernando Mendoza. College football purists, yep, absolutely know that guy. Fantastic. He's a great quarterback. Non-purists who are tuning in just for the biggest games, who is this guy, Joe, and how did he get here?
Well, he came from Cal. He's a mobile kid. He's big. He's about 6'3", about 220. He's a gutty kid and had a great performance for Kirk Cignetti.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
We're in a weird place with Trevor Lawrence. This was another one of these quote-unquote can't-miss generational quarterback prospects, right? Everybody was salivating over when he was a freshman winning national championships. And here we are, about 5 years later, looking at ourselves going, is it just time for Trevor Lawrence to get a change of venue or something? Like, what's got to give here? Hopefully this Liam Cohen offense starts to come together.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
The Americans got to find answers in these partnerships, and I think they need to look at their who's making these decisions from a stat standpoint.
Well, it's so funny to me, especially coming off of the Walker Cup just a few weeks before, how it just seems like there's this glaring chasm between American partnered match play and American individual, singles match play.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.